Story 1. Being a single parent isn't easy. After my divorce 3 years ago, I've been working 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. My son doesn't ask for much, which makes me want to give him the world even more. He's been through a lot, watching his parents split, moving to a smaller apartment, and having to switch schools because we couldn't afford to stay in our old neighborhood. For his 10th birthday, I wanted to do something special. For months, he'd been talking about Bounce Universe, this new trampoline park that opened up across town. His friends from school had been having parties there, and I could tell he felt left out. Usually, I just have a small celebration at home with pizza and a homemade cake, but this year I was determined to make it different. I picked up extra shifts at the diner where I work weekends, saved every tip, and skipped my morning coffee runs for 2 months straight. When I finally had enough, I called Bounce Universe to book a party package. It wasn't cheap, $300 for a 2-hour slot, a party room, pizza, drinks, and a dedicated staff member to supervise the kids. But seeing my son's face light up when I told him was worth every penny. I sent invitations to 15 kids from his class, ordered a custom cake with his favorite superhero, and even splurged on goodie bags with little toys and candy. Everything was set for Saturday at 2 p.m. I arrived an hour early to set up the decorations in our reserved party room. The staff was super helpful, especially the young guy who was assigned to our party. He helped me hang the birthday banner and set up the table with plates, cups, and party hats. By 1:45 p.m., everything looked perfect. Kids started arriving, and my son was bouncing with excitement, greeting his friends and showing off his new sneakers that his grandparents had sent for his birthday. Everything was going great until about 30 minutes into the party. We had just finished the first round of trampoline games and were heading back to our party room for pizza when this woman walked in with 3 kids trailing behind her. At first, I thought maybe they were late arrivals to our party, though I didn't recognize them. But then the woman marched straight up to our decorated table and started pushing our stuff aside to make room for her oversized purse and her kids' jackets. "Excuse me, this is a private party. We've reserved this room." She barely glanced at me, continuing to rearrange our decorations. "Woman, it's a public trampoline park. First come, first served." I was shocked. "Who does that?" "Me. Actually, no. I paid to reserve this room specifically for my son's birthday party. There's a sign right there with his name on it." I pointed to the door where the staff had placed a colorful sign saying, "Happy 10th birthday," with my son's name. "Woman, well, we're here now, and my kids are hungry. We'll just share the space. You have plenty of room." By this point, my son and his friends had gathered around, looking confused. One of his friends whispered something to him, and he looked back at me with worried eyes. "I'm sorry, but this won't work. I paid for a private party. There are other areas in the facility where you can sit." The woman rolled her eyes dramatically. "Woman, don't be so selfish. It's just a birthday party. My kids want pizza too." She then had the audacity to open one of our pizza boxes and tell her kids to grab a slice. I was absolutely floored. "Please don't touch our food. I paid for that for my son's guests." "Woman, there's plenty to go around. Don't be so stingy." At this point, my mama bear instincts kicked in. I stepped between her and the pizza, crossing my arms. You need to leave our party room now. This is completely inappropriate." "Woman, make me." I turned to my son's assigned party supervisor, who had been watching this exchange with wide eyes. Could you please get the manager?" The supervisor nodded quickly and hurried off. The woman smirked like she'd won something. "Woman, such a drama queen. It's just a little party space." While we waited for the manager, the woman's kids had made themselves completely at home. The youngest one, probably around 5, was running around our table, touching the presents. The 2 older ones, maybe 8 and 10, were already helping themselves to the chips and dip I'd set out. My son tugged at my sleeve. "Son, Mom, they're eating our food. I tried to stay calm for his sake. Me? I know. Honey, the manager is coming to help us. Woman, your mom is being ridiculous. We're just sharing. Then, I kid you not, this woman walked over to where our birthday cake was sitting and started examining it. It was a beautiful cake with hand-painted superhero decorations that I'd splurged on from a local bakery. Woman, this looks good. My youngest loves chocolate cake. Before I could react, she had pulled out her phone and was taking pictures of our cake, like she was planning to show someone later or something. Me. Please don't touch the cake. That's for my son to blow out his candles later. Woman, oh relax, I'm just looking. Though it would be nice if you shared some with my kids too. It's way too big for just your party. One of the moms from our party, who had stayed to help out, stepped forward. Other mom, this is outrageous. You can't just crash someone's party and demand their cake. Woman, mind your own business. No one asked you. Finally, the manager arrived, a tall man with a name tag that read Assistant Manager. He looked between us with a confused expression. Manager, what seems to be the problem here? I explained the situation as calmly as I could, while the woman interrupted several times to claim that I was overreacting and being selfish with public space. The manager's expression changed from confused to firm. Manager, ma'am, this is indeed a reserved party room. This parent has paid for private use of this space for the next hour and a half. Woman, that's ridiculous. It's a public facility. Manager, it's a private business, and we rent out our party rooms. There's a perfectly nice seating area near the front that you're welcome to use, or you can check at the desk to see if any other party rooms are available for rental. The woman's face turned an alarming shade of red. Woman, do you know how much money I spend here? My kids have monthly passes. You can't treat us like this. Manager, I'm sorry, but you'll need to gather your belongings and leave this room. Woman, I want to speak to the real manager, not some assistant. Manager, I'm afraid the general manager isn't here today, and I have full authority to enforce our policies. If you continue to refuse, I'll have to ask you to leave the facility entirely. Something in his tone must have finally gotten through to her because she grabbed her purse with an exaggerated huff. Woman, fine, this place isn't even that good anyway. The trampolines at Jump Zone are much better. She turned to her kids. Woman, come on, we're leaving. These people don't know how to share. The oldest two kids followed her, looking embarrassed, but the youngest one was nowhere to be seen. We all looked around until I spotted him. He was by the cake table, and to my horror, he had his finger deep in the frosting on the side of the cake. Me. Hey, please don't touch that. The woman grabbed her son's hand, not even bothering to apologize for the now ruined side of our cake. Woman, he's just a child. It's not like he contaminated the whole thing. She stormed toward the door, kids in tow, but not before turning back for one last parting shot. Woman, worst birthday party ever. Your poor son. My son, who had been watching this whole scene with wide eyes, came to stand by me. I put my arm around him protectively. The manager turned to me with an apologetic expression. Manager, I am so sorry about that. This has never happened before. Me, it's not your fault. Manager, tell you what, the cake damage is minimal, but I'd like to offer you an extra half hour of jump time for all the kids on the house. I thanked him, and he went to adjust our reservation in the system. The other mom who had spoken up came over to help me fix the cake as best we could. We decided to serve it from the other side so the finger marks wouldn't be visible in the birthday photos. We managed to get the party back on track. The kids were resilient and quickly forgot about the interruption once they were back on the trampolines. We played games, ate pizza, and when it came time for cake, everyone sang loudly and my son blew out all 10 candles in one breath. I thought the drama was over, but I was wrong. When it was time to leave, We gathered our gifts and leftover cake and headed to the parking lot. As we approached my car, I heard screaming. Not just any screaming, the kind of primal wailing that makes your skin crawl. There, about 4 cars down from mine, was the entitled woman, trying to wrangle her 3 kids into a minivan. The youngest one was having a complete meltdown, sprawled on the pavement, pounding his fists and screaming at the top of his lungs. The middle child was sitting on the ground, refusing to get up, and the oldest was yelling at his mother. "Oldest kid, you always do this. You always embarrass us. I told you it was someone's birthday party." "Woman, get in the car now, all of you. You're making a scene." "Middle kid, you made a scene. They had cool superhero decorations, and we could have stayed if you weren't so mean." "Woman, I am not having this discussion in the parking lot. Get in the car." "Youngest kid, I want cake. You said I could have Ike." The woman tried to pick up the youngest, who responded by going completely limp, then stiff, then thrashing the classic toddler move that makes them nearly impossible to carry. She nearly dropped him twice. Several parents from our party had also reached the parking lot by this point, and we all tried not to stare too obviously, but it was like watching a train wreck. One dad whispered to me, "Karma's a fast worker today, huh?" The woman finally noticed our group watching, and somehow managed to look both furious and mortified at the same time. She gave up on the youngest for a moment to march toward us. "Woman, what are you looking at? Never seen children before. Take a picture, it'll last longer." I shook my head and turned away, helping my son load his presents into our car. I had no interest in engaging with her again. As we got in our car, the oldest kid was still yelling. "Oldest kid, this is why Dad left, because you're embarrassing." Ouch. That was brutal, even for this woman. Her face crumpled for just a second before she regained her angry expression. We drove away with the sounds of the meltdown still audible. My son was quiet for a moment, then spoke up from the back seat. "Son, Mom, why was that lady so mean?" I thought about it for a second, trying to find the right words. "Me. Some people think the rules don't apply to them, honey. They think they're entitled to whatever they want, even if it belongs to someone else." "Son, her kids seemed really mad at her." "Me. Yes, they did." "Son, I'm glad you're my mom. This was the best birthday ever, even with that mean lady." That simple sentence made every extra shift, every skipped coffee, every penny saved worth it. We spent the rest of the drive home talking about his favorite parts of the party and planning where to display his presents in our small apartment. Later that night, after he'd fallen asleep surrounded by his new toys, I found myself thinking about that woman. Part of me felt sorry for her. What kind of life must she have to think it's okay to crash a child's birthday party? And those poor kids, especially the oldest one who seemed so embarrassed by his mother's behavior. But mostly, I felt grateful. Grateful for my son who appreciates the little things. Grateful for friends who stand up for what's right. And grateful for managers who enforce boundaries when entitled people try to cross them. And you know what? Despite the unexpected drama, it really was the best birthday party ever. Story 2. I've been working in the restaurant industry for almost 7 years now. I started as a dishwasher right after high school, mainly because I needed quick money and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. My parents had always pushed me toward college, but I wasn't ready for that commitment, and honestly, I had no clue what I'd even study. The restaurant job was supposed to be temporary, just something to pay the bills while I figured things out. But I ended up really enjoying the fast-paced environment and the camaraderie among the staff. I worked my way up from dishwasher to line cook, then server, and finally to assistant manager at our location, which is part of a popular family restaurant chain with about 30 locations throughout the state. Being an assistant manager is both rewarding and exhausting. I handle scheduling, inventory, staff disputes, and of course, customer complaints. Most customers are reasonable people. If they find something wrong with their meal, we fix it, maybe comp a dessert, and everyone goes home happy. But then there are those customers who view restaurants as an opportunity for free stuff. And nobody was more infamous in our location than the woman we'd secretly nicknamed Scammer Lady. She'd been coming to our restaurant about once a month for nearly a year. Each time, she'd order a large, expensive meal, eat almost all of it, and then loudly complain that it was completely inedible and demand a refund. Our old manager would usually cave just to avoid a scene, which only encouraged her to keep coming back. When our new manager took over 3 months ago, I filled him in on our regular scammer. He told me he wanted to see how she operated before making any decisions about how to handle her. It was a busy Friday night when Scammer Lady made her latest appearance. I was helping the host stand when I saw her walk in, and my stomach immediately knotted up. "Host, table for one?" "Scammer Lady, yes, and I want a booth by the window, not near the kitchen. The noise bothers me." Host, of course, "Ma'am, right this way." I whispered to our new manager, who I'll call Boss. "That's her. The scammer I told you about." Boss nodded and kept a casual eye on her table while handling other duties. Scammer Lady ordered one of our most expensive dishes, the steak and lobster combo with all the sides. The server, who was relatively new and hadn't dealt with her before, was cheerful and attentive. About 20 minutes into her meal, after she devoured nearly everything on her plate, I saw her waving frantically at her server. "Server, is everything okay with your meal?" "Scammer Lady, does this look okay to you?" "This is absolutely inedible." The server looked confused, staring at the nearly empty plate. "Server, I'm sorry, but it seems like you've eaten most of it." "Scammer Lady, I was trying to see if it got any better, but it's disgusting. The steak is overcooked, and the lobster is rubbery. I want to speak to a manager immediately." The server caught my eye, and I nodded, letting them know I'd handle it. I approached the table with my best customer service smile, but inside I was already dreading the interaction. "Me, hi there, I understand there's an issue with your meal. I'm the assistant manager." "Scammer Lady, this food is completely inedible. I've been coming here for years, and I've never had such terrible food. I want a full refund right now." I looked down at her plate, which had nothing but a few bites of steak and some discarded lobster shell left. "Me, I notice you've eaten most of your meal. Was there a specific issue from the beginning, or did you discover something wrong partway through?" "Scammer Lady, don't you dare suggest I'm lying. The steak was tough as leather, and the lobster tasted like rubber. I was just trying to give it a chance because I was starving. I want to speak to the actual manager, not some assistant." Her voice had risen, and people at nearby tables were starting to stare. This was exactly her strategy: cause enough of a scene that we'd give in just to keep the peace. "Me, I'll get the manager for you. One moment, please." I went to find Boss, who was already watching the situation unfold from near the kitchen. "Boss, I saw what's happening. I'll handle it." We walked back to Scammer Lady's table together. She had her arms crossed and a smug look on her face, clearly expecting another easy victory. "Boss, good evening, ma'am. I understand there's an issue with your meal?" Scammer Lady, finally, someone in charge. "Yes, my meal was completely inedible, and your assistant here is accusing me of lying." "Boss, I apologize for any misunderstanding. Could you please explain what was wrong with the meal?" Scammer Lady launched into an elaborate complaint about how the steak was simultaneously undercooked and overcooked, which makes no sense, how the lobster tasted off, and how the vegetables were cold, all while she had clearly eaten everything except a few bites. Boss maintained a polite, interested expression throughout her rant, nodding occasionally and asking clarifying questions that seemed to catch her off guard. She wasn't used to being questioned so thoroughly about her complaints. "Boss, I see. Well, I'm terribly sorry you didn't enjoy your meal. Let me take this plate back to our chef so we can address these issues." Scammer Lady looked triumphant as Boss took her nearly empty plate. She probably thought she'd won again. But instead of immediately offering a refund, Boss returned a few minutes later without the plate. "Boss, Our chef has reviewed your feedback. Since you found the meal inedible, but seem to have eaten most of it, we're a bit confused about how to proceed. Scammer lady, obviously, I expect a full refund, and actually, I think I deserve a complimentary dessert for my trouble. Otherwise, I'll be leaving a 1-star review on every platform I can find. I have a large social media following, you know. That's when I saw a slight smile appear on boss's face. It wasn't the usual customer service smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment. Boss, actually, ma'am, I've been reviewing your visit history with us. It seems that every time you dine here, you find your meal inedible after eating most of it. That's quite a coincidence, wouldn't you say? Scammer lady's face flushed red, but she doubled down. Scammer lady, how dare you? I'm a loyal customer, and this is how you treat me, by keeping some creepy record of my visits. I want your name and the number for corporate right now. Boss, certainly. My name is on my tag, and I'd be happy to provide corporate's number. But first, I should inform you that after noticing this pattern, we've been keeping video evidence of your visits. We have footage of you entering the restaurant, ordering food, eating almost all of it, and then claiming it was inedible. We have this not just from today, but from your last 6 visits. The color drained from Scammer lady's face, but she still tried to maintain her indignation. Scammer lady, you can't record me without my permission. That's illegal. Boss, actually, our security cameras are clearly disclosed at the entrance, and as a place of business, we're well within our rights to record activity on our premises. Now, would you like to pay for your meal, or should we continue this conversation with the police? Because what you're doing could be considered fraud. The restaurant had gone eerily quiet. Nearby tables were pretending not to listen, but it was obvious everyone was hanging on every word of this confrontation. Scammer lady, this is ridiculous. I'm never coming back here again. Boss, actually, ma'am, you won't be coming back. You're banned from this location, effective immediately, and I've taken the liberty of sharing your information and our evidence with all other locations in our chain. You're banned from all our restaurants. Scammer lady stood up, her face contorted with rage. For a moment, I thought she might throw something, but instead, she snatched up her purse. Scammer lady, fine, I'll take my business elsewhere, and I'm still going to write those reviews. Boss, feel free. We'll respond with the video footage of you eating your inedible meal tonight. Oh, and your check is still due. That'll be $58.97. For a moment, it looked like she might just storm out without paying, which would have given Boss a perfect reason to call the police. But after a tense standoff, she slammed her credit card on the table. Boss processed her payment with the same pleasant smile he'd maintained throughout the encounter. When he returned with the receipt, he said, "Thank you for dining with us. We hope you find a restaurant more to your liking in the future." After she left, the entire staff was buzzing with excitement. Several customers even approached Boss to commend him on how he handled the situation. One regular customer who had witnessed her scams before actually clapped. Later that night, as we were closing up, Boss called me into his office. "Boss, I wanted to thank you for bringing that situation to my attention when I first started. We've been documenting her visits and building a case. She's not just been scamming us, she's been doing the same thing at least 5 other restaurants in the area. I've been in contact with their managers, and they've all had similar experiences." Me, so what happens now? Boss, well, she's banned from our entire chain, and the other restaurant managers are taking similar actions. If she tries to escalate this to corporate or follows through on her threat to post negative reviews, we have plenty of evidence to refute her claims. 2 weeks later, Scammer lady tried to make a reservation at another location of our restaurant using a different name, but someone recognized her from the photos Boss had circulated. When confronted, she made a scene again, but this time the manager didn't hesitate to call the police when she refused to leave. She was issued a trespass warning, which means if she shows up at any location again, she can be arrested. As for me, this whole experience reinforced why I've stuck with restaurant work all these years. Sure, we deal with difficult customers, long hours, and sometimes thankless work. But there's something deeply satisfying about being part of a team that stands up for what's right, that doesn't let people take advantage of them, and that values integrity over avoiding conflict. Boss later told me that he was impressed with how I had documented Scammer Lady's history even before he arrived. He's now training me to take on more managerial responsibilities, with the goal of eventually promoting me to manage my own location. Turns out that temporary job I took 7 years ago might actually turn into a career, and I'm completely okay with that. So to all the scammers out there thinking restaurants are easy targets, think again. We remember you, we talk to each other, and eventually, you'll meet a manager who's ready to serve you exactly what you deserve. Story 3. I've always been a single dad trying my best. After my wife passed away 3 years ago from cancer, it's just been me and my 2 kids, my son, who's 12, and my daughter, who's 9. We moved to this small suburb outside the city last year so I could take a better paying job as a high school history teacher. The move was tough on all of us, especially the kids who had to leave their friends behind, but we're making it work. One of the bright spots in our new life is Cedar Hills Park, just a 10-minute walk from our apartment. It's not fancy, just a big open field, a small playground, a basketball court, and some picnic tables under old oak trees, but it's become our weekend sanctuary. Every Saturday morning, rain or shine, we pack snacks, a soccer ball, and a frisbee and head to the park. Those 3 hours are sacred to us. No screens, no homework, no job stress, just us playing and laughing together. This past Saturday started like any other. The weather was perfect, sunny, but not too hot, with a light breeze. We arrived around 10 a.m. and found our usual spot near the edge of the field. The kids immediately wanted to play soccer, so I set up our mini goals and we started a game. We weren't the only ones enjoying the day. There was a group of about 5 families having what looked like a birthday party near the picnic tables. They had balloons and music playing softly. On the other side of the park, some teenagers were shooting hoops, and an elderly couple walked their golden retriever along the path. It was a typical Saturday scene, diverse, lively, and peaceful. That peace was about to be disturbed. I first noticed her when she was marching toward the birthday group. A middle-aged woman with an expensive-looking athletic outfit and perfectly highlighted hair pulled into a ponytail. She had that purposeful walk of someone on a mission, and her face was set in a scowl. I didn't think much of it at first, maybe she knew someone in the group. But then I heard her voice, loud and sharp, cutting through the gentle hum of the park. "Woman, excuse me, can you people keep it down? This is a public park, not your backyard." I paused our soccer game and watched as one man from the birthday group stood up and approached her politely. "Man from birthday group, I'm sorry, is our music too loud? We can turn it down." "Woman, it's not just the music. There are too many of you, and you're taking up too much space. Some of us come here for peace and quiet." Man from birthday group, we reserved these picnic tables through the city website. We have a permit. It's my daughter's birthday. Woman, well, I don't care what permit you think you have. I come here every weekend, and I don't like the vibe you're bringing. There are other parks you can go to. By this point, my kids had noticed the commotion too. My daughter tugged at my sleeve. "My daughter, Dad, why is that lady yelling at those people?" I shook my head, unsure how to explain entitlement to a 9-year-old. "Me, some people think they own places that belong to everyone, sweetie." The woman was now standing with her hands on her hips, staring down the birthday group. Most of them looked uncomfortable, and I noticed some children huddling closer to their parents. The birthday girl, wearing a tiara that caught the sunlight, looked on the verge of tears. Man from birthday group, look, we're not doing anything wrong. We paid the reservation fee, we're keeping our noise reasonable, and the kids are just having fun. Please leave us alone. Woman, I've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years, and I've never seen you people here before. Where are you from, anyway? There was an uncomfortable silence. The implication in her question was clear to everyone. Another parent from group, that's irrelevant. We have as much right to be here as you do. Woman, we'll see about that. She pulled out her phone and walked away, furiously tapping on the screen. The birthday group huddled together, clearly discussing what to do. I could see worry on their faces, and it made my blood boil. My kids and I had seen enough. Me, hey, let's go introduce ourselves. We walked over to the birthday group, soccer ball in hand. Me, hi there. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say that my kids and I come here every weekend, and we're really happy to see your celebration. That woman doesn't speak for the rest of us. The relief on their faces was immediate. The father who had confronted the woman smiled and extended his hand. Birthday girl's father, thank you. That means a lot. Would you and your kids like some cake? We have plenty. My kids' eyes lit up at the mention of cake, and soon we were all chatting and laughing. The birthday girl showed off her presents, and my daughter was in awe of her tiara. For about 15 minutes, everything was peaceful again. Then the woman returned, and she wasn't alone. She had a police officer with her. My heart sank. The birthday group tensed up again, and some of the parents instinctively moved closer to their children. The woman had a triumphant look on her face as she marched toward us with the officer trailing behind her. Woman, officer, these are the people I was telling you about. They're being disruptive and refuse to leave when I ask them to. The officer, a young guy who looked uncomfortable with the whole situation, surveyed the scene. He saw families eating cake, music playing quietly, children playing nothing remotely disruptive. Officer, ma'am, I don't see any violations here. They have a permit for the picnic area. Woman, well, what about them? They're playing soccer and almost hit me with the ball. She pointed directly at me and my kids, who were standing with the birthday group. Me, excuse me? We were playing over there, nowhere near you. We haven't interacted with you at all until now. Woman, I saw your ball roll past me. It's dangerous. You could have hit someone. The accusation was so ridiculous, I almost laughed. We hadn't been playing for at least 20 minutes, and our spot was a good 50 yards from where she claimed to have been. Officer, ma'am, playing soccer in the open field area is perfectly allowed. Woman, well, I don't feel safe with all these people taking over the park. I pay taxes, you know? I want them removed. The officer sighed, clearly realizing what kind of situation he was dealing with. Officer, no one is breaking any rules here. Everyone has a right to use the park. The woman's face turned red. She pointed at the birthday group. Woman, they're too loud, and She turned to me and my kids. Woman, they're a danger to public safety with their game. This isn't a soccer field. Before the officer could respond, someone else joined our growing circle. Man in running clothes, excuse me, what seems to be the problem here? I didn't recognize him at first. He was dressed in running shorts and a sweat-soaked t-shirt, looking like any other jogger in the park. But the officer straightened up immediately. Officer, good morning, Mayor. Just responding to a complaint about park use. Mayor? I looked more closely at the jogger and realized it was indeed Mayor Thompson, our city's mayor for the past 8 years. I'd seen him in the local newspaper and at a school function once, but never up close. The woman seemed startled but quickly recovered, plastering on a smile. Woman, Mayor Thompson, I'm so glad you're here. I was just explaining to this officer that our lovely park is being overrun. These people. She gestured vaguely at all of us. Woman, they're not respecting the peaceful nature of our community space. Mayor Thompson looked around slowly, taking in the birthday celebration, my kids standing nearby, and then back to the woman. Mayor, which specific rule do you believe is being violated? Woman, well, they're too loud, and too many, and that man and his children were playing soccer dangerously. Mayor Thompson nodded thoughtfully. Mayor, I jog through this park 3 times a week, and I help draft the current park use regulations. There's no rule against birthday parties with permits, which I can see they have on their table. There's no rule against playing soccer in the open field areas. And as for noise." He paused, and we all listened. The music was barely audible from where we stood, and the only real noise was coming from the woman herself. "Mayor, I don't hear any excessive noise. What I do see is families enjoying our public park exactly as it was intended to be used." The woman's face flushed deeper. "Woman, but I've lived by this park for 20 years, and these people—" "Mayor, these people?" His tone was sharp now, challenging her to finish that thought. "Woman, these outsiders, they don't live in our immediate neighborhood." Mayor Thompson crossed his arms. "Mayor, parks are public spaces. They belong to everyone in our city, not just those who live closest to them. That's why we all pay taxes to maintain them." He turned to address everyone else. "Mayor, I apologize for this disruption to your day. Please continue enjoying our city's park facilities." Then he turned back to the woman, his voice firm but controlled. "Mayor, ma'am, I believe you owe these families an apology. You've disrupted a child's birthday party and harassed park-goers who are following all regulations." "Woman, I don't have to apologize for protecting my neighborhood." "Mayor, officer, I believe this constitutes disorderly conduct. Would you agree?" The officer nodded. "Officer, yes, sir. Creating a public disturbance and making false reports." The woman's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. "Woman, you can't be serious. I'm the victim here." "Officer, ma'am, I'm going to need to see your ID." What followed was both uncomfortable and oddly satisfying. The woman refused to show her ID, then threatened to call the officer's supervisor, then finally produced her driver's license while continuing to insist she was being persecuted. The officer wrote her a citation for disorderly conduct, which she refused to sign at first. "Officer, ma'am, signing isn't an admission of guilt. It just acknowledges you've received the citation. Refusing to sign could result in arrest." That finally got through to her. She signed the paper with an angry scribble, then turned to storm off. But before she left, Mayor Thompson had one more thing to say. "Mayor, the next City Council meeting is Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're discussing the park system budget. Since you're so concerned about how our parks are used, I encourage you to attend and share your views in a respectful manner, of course." The woman didn't respond. She just marched away, her ponytail swinging with each angry step. After she left, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then someone from the birthday group started to applaud. Soon everyone was clapping, including my kids. Mayor Thompson looked embarrassed by the attention. "Mayor, please, that's not necessary. I'm sorry you all had to experience that. Our parks are for everyone." Birthday girl's father: "Thank you, Mayor. You saved my daughter's special day." Mayor Thompson smiled at the birthday girl. "Mayor, happy birthday, young lady. I hope the rest of your celebration is peaceful." He chatted with us for a few more minutes, asked my kids about school, and then continued on his jog. The officer left soon after, and the park returned to its normal, pleasant atmosphere. The birthday group insisted we stay and join their celebration. My kids were thrilled there was cake, games, and new friends to play with. I found myself chatting with the other parents, exchanging phone numbers, and making plans for future playdates. As the afternoon wound down and we walked home, my son looked thoughtful. "My son, Dad, why did that woman think she could tell everyone to leave the park?" It was a good question, and I wanted to give a thoughtful answer. "Me, some people think they're more important than others, or that they have more rights than others. They forget that public places like parks belong to everyone, not just them." "My daughter, she was mean. I'm glad the mayor was there." Me too, sweetie. And you know what? Even if the mayor hadn't been there, what she was doing was still wrong. It's important to stand up to people like that politely but firmly." "My son, like you did when you went to talk to the birthday people." I hadn't thought of my small gesture as standing up to the woman, but I suppose in a way it was. "Me, I guess so. I just wanted them to know not everyone felt the way she did." My daughter, I'm glad we made new friends. Can we go to the park again tomorrow? I smiled. Me, absolutely. It's our park too. And we did go back the next day and every Saturday after. Sometimes we see the families from the birthday party. Sometimes we see Mayor Thompson jogging. We've never seen the entitled woman again. Maybe she found another park to try to claim as her own. Or maybe, just maybe, she learned something that day about what public spaces really mean. As for us, Cedar Hills Park isn't just our weekend sanctuary anymore, it's where we found our community in our new home. All because we refuse to let one entitled person define who belongs and who doesn't.